we believe that all nonprofit organizations have a why and have a reason why they exist. And this could be also be leveraged and used in order for you to showcase what you do and how you communicate that to everybody, to different stakeholders. So we have a few questions that we usually ask leaders for you to start grounding yourself and planting that seed into what you want to communicate and what is the story that you want to share out loud. So the first question that we always ask is like how you want to be experienced by others. And by this we mean, and we start to ask ourselves, how are you perceived? Like, how do you think you are perceived when you portray to, or when you put yourself in face of other people? So these are a few questions that I'm gonna be throwing at you all, and you have space on your worksheets for you to answer. But then the other question that we also ask is, how do you want to be perceived? Right? Because like sometimes like we are perceived one way, but it's not the way that we want to be perceived, right? So what we mean by this is like, how do we tie our personal story and our personal brand that also connects to our organizational brand? And we have this quote that we like to share all the time, that it's, I am not who I think I am not who you think I am, I am who I think you think I am. It's very philosophical, so I'm gonna leave 1 minute for you to read it and sharing out loud your thoughts about this specific quote. Some thoughts on this one. Peer pressure is raw, as Andrea said. So one of the things that we share here at Radical Partners that is connected to what that first slide that I shared with you all about the transcendent leadership is, how can you be your authentic self, right? And how can you portray your authentic self, and also sharing the message with what you want to do and what you're doing with your organization. So we're gonna share a formula that it's shared by Michelle Poller, who's a marketer, where she says that your personal brand should be the connection of, or like the merge of, your values, your tone, and your unique value proposition. So what is what you're bringing to the table that is unique to you as a person or to you as an organization? And when we were working on this session with Joanne, she was asking me, it's like, how do you think this could be built for you, Luisana, right? And it was like a hard exercise, right? Because for me, it was like, I'm not sure, like, what do you mean by unique value proposition? What do you mean by values? Like, I'm confused about like how to organize this, right? And when we finished the exercise, when it came to like narrowing down my values, my tone, and my unique value proposition into like how I want to portray the communications, or how I want to portray or be perceived by others, I got to like narrow it down to, for the values, that I like accountability, inclusivity, and excellence, right? Like I really like to do research-based things. I really like for people to feel welcome on the space that they're at in with me, and for us to like be held each other accountable, that we are learning, right, together. When it comes to the tone, I narrow it down that I'm a friendly and funny person, right? It doesn't fit with me to be like a very serious person, or very like, I don't know, like business as usual person, right? So I really like to have this tone of friendliness and funny, so that people can feel welcome within the space that we are at. But when it comes to my unique value proposition, is that I like for people to have transformational learning experiences. So it's not only that you learn something, but you also like feel that these, it also is gonna be very important for what you do. So when it comes to example and how I portray that to other people, if you follow me on some of the social medias, you could see that there's like different ways on how I share, or how I share the message about the things that I want to share. So the first picture is super funny because Jan said like, yeah, you're so funny when you put like this camera close to your face, but you're sharing important information, right? Like welcoming people to the 10 days of connection, or inviting people to join to a workshop. But also you can see me, for example, on a panel that I had with different students, where I was like relaxed, but also talking about like the experience that we do here at Radical Partner. Or when it comes to LinkedIn, I use a lot of emojis, like spaces and like sparkles. So what I wanted to say with this is that talking about that peer pressure that Andrea was sharing at the beginning is like, how do you portray your personal brand that it also speaks to you, right? And like you can portray your whole self also to other people. So let's do a little exercise for 5 minutes on your worksheet. I want for us to work on yours. So let's work on your formula for building your personal brand. That could be that this will work as your seed for when we're gonna be talking on the next session. So let's do 5 minutes for you to draft your values, your tone, and your unique value proposition. Okay. How was the exercise? Or if you want to share your personal brand draft.
Can I share?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, this is Fabi. I did have challenges verbalizing my values because it's like, how would I say it? Like there's certain words that it's like, how do you put that into words for an organization? You know what I mean? Hold on. So I put that my values are sustainability, mental wellness, connection to planet and each other and higher self.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put the tone is warm and inviting, goddess energy, earth mama vibe, confident, safe space. With the UVP, I don't know how to verbalize that, you know?
Yeah. So how I see it for you, Fabi, it's on your unique value proposition, think about what is the product or service that you provide, right? Or in this case, the program, right? Like you provide unique experiences for people to connect with the earth and to connect with the environment through gardening. Because I know you have done this before, right? So that could be your unique value proposition. And then if you see like the combination of your values, your tone, and your unique value proposition, you can draft that message or like your draft your personal brand. So if I see it from the outside, I think when it comes to the messaging, it would be something related about the environment, about like how to connect with nature, hands-on, right? So think about like what are these different elements that will help you to draft that story. And like all of these are very nimble, right? Like you could always change in the way of how you portray the different message and how you want to change your values or accommodate your values to address or build your personal brand. But if you see yours, you have like a common thread when it comes to environment, when it comes to nature, when it comes to being calm, right? So when I think about you and your personal brand, I think you're a very calm person, down to earth, that likes to be around the environment. And like with that, you can communicate that to tell your story.
Okay, so in our values, we have the 3 R's where we renew, reconnect, and reawaken mind, body, and spirit with the environment, with our higher selves, and with our communities. I think that would be my UVP.
So when you think about that, you could even use that to tell different stories, right? Even to tell it through different channels. So I think you are in a really great path, Fabi, and thank you so much for sharing. But we wanted to set this, like, put these seeds on your head, or put your seeds on the ground for us to move into the next one, which is going to be related to your organizational story. And with that, I'm going to welcome Alejandra Silva, Director of Venture Café Miami. She's a friend, she's a marketer, she's great telling stories, and we didn't think about a better person to come and share her expertise and knowledge with all of us here today. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so that Ale can introduce herself and take it from here on.
Okay, can you all see my screen now? Is it back there? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Luciana, for that amazing introduction. And I just want to share with all of you my gratefulness for being here today and have the opportunity to connect with you and learn from you. I think that there is always so much power when we give ourselves times to learn from each other. And I don't think there is a way better space to do it than when we talk about stories. I was really excited when this opportunity came to me, and they asked me a little bit on sharing about how do you deploy your brand, how do you bring your essence to the world, and I was talking with Joanne and with Luciana, and I was like, we got to start from the bottom. Like we really have to go down to that foundational element, and then we can build around that. So I'm super excited to share a little bit of what I know, what I've learned with the years, and also to learn about all of you. And usually this type of moments where experts are introduced, it starts with a very fluff introduction, but honestly we're talking about stories today. So I want to share a little bit about my story and who I am. Of course, today the director of Venture Café Miami, but I don't necessarily feel that this defines me, because truthfully, I'm just a small town girl originally from Nicaragua. I moved here 11 years ago. When I was 19 years old, I made a bold decision to leave my country with $100 in my pocket. To be quite honest, I don't know if I'll do the same type of decisions today with this, steady mindset, but I was brave enough to do that back in the days. And I left with the thought of, conquering the American dream, and using my fresh out of the oven hospitality management degree to build something new for my family and my future. And in hotels, it's really where my career started. I worked for different 3, 4, and 5-star hotels here in Miami. My last experience was at the Satai Hotel, where I was able to support them getting their Forbes 5th star. And there as well, I in parallel built a jewelry business. This jewelry business was also a platform to help Latin American artisans to get US pay. And my passion for marketing communications was all meshed into this world of hospitality, the jewelry, the social media emerging then. And fast forward, I landed at the Cambridge Innovation Center, CIC Miami. Some of you might be familiar with them, where I had the pleasure and opportunity to build the programming for that internal community and really get to know the local innovation ecosystem and support them, leveraging my connections with the ecosystem and building educational resources for them. Fast forward today, I am the director of Venture Café Miami, where I feel that this journey of hospitality, marketing, community building, events, it's the space where I feel that I can apply this entire sphere of growth throughout my years. But most important, where I can really apply my purpose, which I feel that my purpose has always been bringing value to others. And it's truthfully what I do, leading this community and really finding opportunities to convene innovation communities in a centralized space and leveraging my local connections to bring value to others. So that's the core of who I am. And just know also that I'm here for you as well as a resource moving forward during this workshop and after. So count me as a core element of myself. I'm a people's person. I share my entire background, but I think that what I truly enjoy is it's connecting with others and really supporting others in their journey, especially when it comes to organizations and efforts with purpose, that really move the needle for our community. So a friend, a partner, and a resource for all of you moving forward. And yeah, that's a little bit about myself. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I was really excited about this opportunity because I feel that there's a lot that comes into the game when it comes to deploying your brand, and especially for marketing and communications. I feel that there's currently challenging times because there's so many emerging trends. The algorithm is constantly changing. The platforms are changing. The designs are changing. People perceive things differently. And I think that's overwhelming. It's overwhelming even for those who are professionals at it. So I can totally relate to those that are building from scratch on how this can be so overwhelming and busy, because at the end of the day, being able to bring your brand to the world and communicate it well is just one element of everything we all have to do in order to be successful in our role as founders, as leaders in different organizations, and really those that are driving and moving the needle around social impact. There is just so much more that needs to be put into place. So I wanted really to bring us to the foundation of everything and really kick it off from there. This is exciting for me because we're gonna dive in a little deeper into the context that I'm about to share today, but we're gonna have a second session. So we're gonna give you an opportunity to go home, really digest a little bit of what we're gonna talk about today and continue the conversation further in a few weeks from a different sphere, but it will be all tied in. So that's a little bit of context. And context about the experience today, it's that I'm gonna take a little bit of time to talk about what I wanna share with you in terms of knowledge, but I want this to be as interactive as possible. I want us to have a conversation. I want us to build this relationship together and build this experience together. So I'll share knowledge with you, and then we're gonna really get our hands dirty and build together and share together. So if you're in any way shy, don't be, because I feel that we're all an amazing family and we're gonna be able to really learn a little bit on how can we all push us forward together in this journey. So let's kick right in with that being said. I thought of calling this experience Storyteller Express because we are gonna, put that title in our hat today of storytellers, and it's gonna be express because we don't have that much time. But again, as I mentioned to you and those that know Venture Café Miami, it's an open space and you can always find me there. So you can count me in to continue building and really sharing anything that you want to share with me and anything that I can support you with. So Storyteller Express. What is a Storyteller Express all about? About a very cliche quote with this, which is everyone has a story. We know that all of you in this room has something extremely unique that brings value to the work that you do. Everybody has a foundational element that makes you completely different from everyone, from here in this Zoom room to those who are out there in the word. And I really loved all the words that you shared earlier, from who we are, a beautiful book, what has us here in the world, because I think that's the biggest asset we have. And I feel that there is often enough times where our journey building gets so busy, that we start with the product, that we start with the delivery, and we really don't build that foundational element that it's really our connective tissue to absolutely everything that we do, not only for ourselves, but for our team and for our audience as well. It really is that DNA that drives absolutely everything. It doesn't only drive your message, the one that you put on your social media, on your website, or the one that you even communicate to your partners, but it also transpires into your visual assets, into your colors, your fonts, your templates in social media. And today, I want to share with you a little framework that has been extremely useful for me throughout the years. And it's really helped me to simplify this process of having a clear message that helps me kind of like tailor it according to the occasion. Whether you're going to a networking event and you'll have a table and you'll have to share your story, or if you're building a social media post, how can you leverage this foundation to really amplify it into different channels of communication and stay consistent? Because I feel that that's the key element. If you're going out there and you're always sharing a different sphere of yourself, then it's really hard to build that brand loyalty, to build that cohesiveness from all your channels. So I think that within this framework, which, as I said, we won't have a lot of time, but I think it will give you some sort of structure that you can kind of like plug and play today and then take home. And hopefully I can see all your beautiful faces on our next session and we can continue debating this topic and really transcending it into different channels of communication. So that's a little bit about what I want us to be talking today. And I wanna emphasize on the importance of this element, because when your story and your foundation is authentic and emotionally resonant and cohesive across all channels, it really develops this unique affinity, you know, that drives recognition, loyalty, and advocacy. Ultimately, you want people to buy so strongly into your story that they're compelled to share it with the world for you, you know, and this, you know, becomes like your unique marketing, you know, essence that takes you into different platforms, into different spheres, and hopefully even to generate revenue, to connect with strategic partners. And I think it's really interesting to be in this season of time where your biggest value proposition, it's really your purpose, you know, it's really what drives you, what gets you out of bed. Because we had last week panel with a group of investors in tech, and you know, think about tech, you always think about the app and the technology and the actual delivery. And they were saying that the biggest rounds of funding that they've been given out was because how well the founder had been able to sell their story. It wasn't because they had their product, it wasn't because of the unique AI element that it had. It was literally about that story. So that's where I really want us to kick us in. And I want to do a quick touch point. Who here before has heard about the why, how, what model? You can raise your hand or put it in the chat, just a little bit out of curiosity. And if you haven't, you know, I would love for you to, after this session or whenever you have time, to go into the link that the team is going to be sharing with you, which is an amazing tech talk by Simon Sinek that it's called Start with Why. And it's going to be just an expansion of some of the elements that we're going to be talking today. It really is about how some big players in the industry, even big nonprofit organizations, have positioned themselves, you know, across the market. Oh, great. So some people has, that's amazing. Across the market because of the fact that they've used this model to build a story and then eventually also build their marketing platforms, their business strategy, et cetera, et cetera. So the team will be sharing it with you, and I hope you're able to enjoy it and use it as a resource. We're going to dive into the model a little deeper right now. And then I'm going to put myself on the spot and I'm going to share the story of Venture Café Miami within this model. And then it's going to be your turn. And then we're going to do a little bit of a workshop moment where we're going to go back and forth and learn from each other and how we leverage this framework and also take it home, play with it. There's a lot of, you know, bringing this model to life that comes with reflecting. And I understand that it won't happen right now within a few minutes. So I hope you're able to take it home and just pause a little bit, find a place where you feel comfortable and dive in a little deeper into how can you structure this model to your benefit. Okay. So this is the circle. It's a beautiful circle with 3 words that we just mentioned, which is why, how, what. Majority of organizations, or a lot of organizations, I don't want to say majority because I think that's very broad, but a lot of folks, a lot of people, they start from the outside in. They first think about what do they want to bring to the world? What's the product? What do we want to change? You know, and then they think, how can I do that? You know, do I have to call a provider? Do I have to speak with this person? And often enough, the main core element, which is the center, the why, it's forgotten, never used, or sometimes done towards the end, and the whole process starts in reverse. But the true way to do things and the right way to do things, it's for you to not even think about the final delivery or the final value proposition, but really think about why are you doing this? Why are you passionate about this? Why do you want to get out of bed every single day to work around this project? Why is it important? Because this is yours. This is the one thing nobody will be able to take away from you. It's the one proprietary element that nobody will be able to share except for yourself to others. And it's so personal and so deep and so relevant because people, partners, relationships, and opportunities will make decisions around trust first. And in order for you to build that trust first, you need to be able to communicate your why the proper way. So usually Your why, it's your purpose. You know, it comes with clarity and it's permanent. It will never change. You can go down the line and, you know, make mistakes and want to pivot how you do things or what you're doing, but your why will always be permanent. So this is a critical element, and it's the emotional core of your brand. It's almost that sublime element. You know, it's what money can buy. Really, money can't buy this. This is unique and it's 100% yours. So just a little bit of food for thought for all of you right now. In order to uncover your why, I want you to ask yourself, what inspired you as a founder, you know, or as a leader? Or what inspired your leader, you know, to build this organization? Or what inspired your team to be part of this initiative? What will be lost if this didn't exist? You know, what the current status quo would be, you know, if this wasn't here right now. And also, I think something that I want to emphasize, it's really what motivates your team to do this work. I think often enough, you know, as leaders, we think of, you know, I want to do this because I believe in this. But if those conversations are not on the table right now, I encourage you to go back into the drawing board with your team and ask them what makes them passionate about this, you know, what makes them want to be building this community or this opportunity or this organization with you, because a lot of the answers of your why might also be there. You know, it's definitely a statement beyond what money can buy, and this what gets you out of bed. Very clear and very permanent. Then when we go into the how, it's all about your process. It's that unique element that sets you apart. You know, it's usually the entire, you know, journey that takes you to accomplish your why. It's definitely special in different ways. And it basically, it shows that different approach in order to accomplish what you do. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Tom's shoes, that they basically, you buy one and you're also gifting another. That's a process, basically, you know, and their why, it's, you know, being able to support the small communities and make a change. But the process, it's for them to use this framework of communicating to people that when they buy one, you know, they're also given one, you know, and it's unique. It's what sets them apart from other shoes, from other brands that might do similar products, you know, but this is their unique element. And then the last part, it's your what. Your what is the result, you know, it's really a combination of your why and your how. And it basically makes that delivery inevitable. You know, it's what people get. You know, if in my case, you know, I have a jewelry business and my why is to be able to support Latin American artisans, and my how is that I build designs and then I give it to these artisans to produce. The what that my customer gets, it's that bracelet towards the end of the day. That's what they take with them. But in order for them to get that what, I walk them through my why and my how before. So I wanted to emphasize in the importance of how I build this communication to get to the final delivery. It's almost the added value, because I feel that when people, you know, it's married to your why and they connect with your how, what they get becomes secondary. So you want to be able to build almost that journey in your story that helps you really connect with you at a deeper level before you even take them into, you know, what are they getting out of what you're giving them, and what is happening in the world, you know, out of what you're doing. So that's a little bit about the method. I don't know if you have any questions around these elements, you can drop them in the chat and I'll be reading them as we go. And then we'll have a little bit of time of Q&A towards the end. And then, you know, I wanted to build for you a little checklist, you know, when it comes to storytelling, because my goal is that you can go home with this framework and we'll give you this slide so you can take with you. And you'll be able to start building that story around those 3 pillars. And then I want you to go around this checklist, and as you're telling your story, to double check if these elements are there. So your story should be authentic, should reflect your values, it should be genuine, it can have vulnerability, you know, it can be transparent, you know, it can be around your learnings, it can be around experiences that you've built before, you've experienced before. It should have clarity, it should be objective, it should be focused, there shouldn't be a lot of repetitions, you shouldn't linger a lot, it should be direct and concise. It should be personal. Everything that it's personal, people can relate, people can connect with you. It should be purposeful. It makes a difference in this world. You're here to change the world. And everybody has something in what you're currently doing that is changing the world. And you believing that and being able to communicate that, it's really important. It should have emotions. You should be passionate when you talk about it. People should feel like you're literally going around your sleeves with your emotions around what you're doing. It should have an inclusive language. It should be easy to digest. It should be practical. People should be able to understand it. You should provide solutions. I love that when Fabi was sharing a little bit of the previous exercise, you know, she talked a lot around those, you know, value pillars that really also, you know, provide solutions to the world. So be sure that there's some sort of, you know, intertwined connection on how, you know, your values and your emotions and your purpose also, you know, build some sort of solution to your actual core element, to your why and what are you currently doing. And should be backed up by actions. There should be something that you do that people can say, okay, this person, you know, it's actually moving the needle around this purpose because they are actioning this way. And so I want to give you this, and right now when we do the interactive exercise, you'll be able to leverage also this checklist. But the idea is that as you use the previous framework, after you have that story written, you can also go into all these pillars and do a little checklist, and really look into how can you little by little start incorporating all these elements on how you convey your story, you know. And so this is a little bit about the checklist, a little bit about the framework. And before we dive into the exercise, I mentioned to you that now I'm going to put myself on the spot, and all of you should have a link to this resource. The team will be sharing it as well, so you can have it in the back burner. And I'm going to share with you the story of Venture Café and the work that we do at a nutshell. You know, this is what I usually would basically present to our audience on our Thursday gatherings. And for those who don't know about Venture Café Miami, you're about to learn the entire sphere. But when we open our events, this is basically the story that I tell, or when I talk to a partner or a possible funder or sponsor, this is how I present Venture Café. And I've been intentional into playing a little bit within all these elements in the checklist and incorporating the previous framework. You will see as I share the story that there isn't a specific order on how you're going to share your story. There isn't really one size fits all. It all depends on what you do, and making just sure that everything is intertwined and that the way you're communicated really reflects on how much you believe in this element that you're doing for your community, for the world, or for your audience as well. So I'm going to jump right in. And then I want to hear your thoughts, and we will work on a little interactive exercise. Okay. So Venture Café. So Venture Café, to be quite honest, it was actually built and founded in 2009 in Boston, Massachusetts. It wasn't founded here in Miami. And as you can see, these tweets are back from 2009. And we were just an experiment. Our founder, Tim Rowe, who is also the founder of the Cambridge Innovation Center, the co-working arm of our organization, really had just graduated from MIT right in the center of Kendall Square. And he felt, you know, that he wanted to connect with others that were building entrepreneurship in the ecosystem. So he started hanging out with a group of entrepreneurs on a bar called The Hangout right next to MIT, and started convening different people that were just building different projects, investors, industry experts. And he was like, you know what, there's something here. After multiple weeks of going out there and really connected with all these folks, there are new ideas sparking, there are new relationships being built. but this feels exclusive, you know, in order for people to come into this little sphere and this little gathering, you know, people needs to be invited. And that doesn't align with innovation, because innovation is for everyone, you know, it should be accessible, it should be inclusive, and it should be free. People shouldn't have to go out there and pay $50 and drink all night in order for them to build connections. So why don't I start this experiment of using the kitchen, the cafe of the co-working space, which is CIC, and start convening folks. And so as you can see, these tweets back in the days, he started with this experiment where he made the community part of the journey. He didn't really know if this was going to be a cafe, a bar, a central location for people to convene, but little by little, he started connected different founders in the central space as a networking opportunity. And then in 2010, he did his first iteration where he plugged in the first activation within an educational session, like a workshop. And so this kicked off, and literally he moved forward with this opportunity on a regular basis on Thursdays. And fast forward today, we are a global network of ecosystem builders with presence in 16 cities around the world, between the US, Asia, Latin America, and Europe. And truthfully, we consider ourselves the connective tissues of innovation communities. We believe that in order to build a successful ecosystem, you need to convene all the players that really play an important role in innovation within the same space, with enough proximity and with enough frequency. But that job doesn't really happen on its own. Somebody has to go out there, build these relationships, and then really nurture the community of builders who are our startup community, our nonprofit organizations, and really connect them within a space where they can plug and play with these groups and amplify innovation and really scale the work that they're doing. And so we do that work. We're right here in the center. We are the community builder pillar. And what we do on a regular basis is that we convene innovation communities in a centralized space. We consider ourselves the center of gravity of innovation. And as some of you might know, we convene the innovation community here in Miami through our flagship program, which is the Venture Café Thursday gathering, which is built around an intentional framework of different workshops and educational sessions and networking. It's a choose your own adventure experience where you can actually meet somebody new, build new relationships, and learn somebody new. We believe, as we mentioned earlier, that innovation is for everyone. So this is your space to be. It's a space for you to bring a friend. And it doesn't really matter if you're just here to learn something new, if you just had an idea and you want to learn something new. There is always a seat at the table for everyone. We're industry agnostic, and we believe that Venture Café is your home to build intentional connections or just to really learn and scale whatever work that you're currently doing. So I'm going to pause there. That's a little bit of how I share the story. This was a little bit briefer than usual. After this, and if I'm sharing it to a partner, or if I'm sharing it to a possible sponsor, I will usually follow with a video to give them a little bit of context of everything that I just shared. If the people it's in the room, I would say the type of experiences that I'm referring to, it's these ones that are here. And I will also share at the end, why am I passionate about doing this? Why do I enjoy the work that I do? And how do we build intentionally, getting to know the community and bring in resources for them? So I'm going to pause there. Does anybody has any questions so far before we go into the next part of the session? I'm going to stop sharing. Any questions? No questions? See in the chat. Okay.
I don't have a question, but just a comment.
Yes.
I've heard the why story the way you exactly how you told it, but recently last year I heard about the who, and in the story that you told about the founder, I heard a lot of who. Most people forget the who, and because they forget the who, even though they have a relevant why and a good what and whatever and how, it's not relevant to that person or their target. So the who is also important.
100%. I 100% agree with you. And I think that part of the importance of your why, it's really understanding who you are building from and that who you're building for. And I think that is something that it's important to have as a reflection, because when you understand why you're doing it, you should also understand for who you're building it. But I 100% agree, and I would tie in the who to your why. So when you reflect in the why you're doing it, also keep in mind who are those that will be impacted by your why. And this will also transcend into the next part that we'll be talking in our next session, that will be a little bit deeper into how do you deploy your brand and how do you bring it to life to your actual audience, and how can you identify that target as well. So thank you so much for your feedback. I think that's very valuable and extremely, extremely important. Okay, so for this next part, Lou, were you going to say something?
Yes, there was also a question in the chat, Ale from Swam. She said, sorry, they asked if you could speak a little bit more about the discipline on the how. That's the question on the chat.
Yes. So when I think of discipline, I think of consistency. When you want to transmit how you do it, it can be flexible, I believe so. But in order for people to buy in, it can't have a different sphere each time you communicate it. So it needs to be consistent. It needs to be streamlined. You know, usually a process has a set of A, B, C, D checklist. So when we think of discipline, think of it of the right way of your timeline in your process to be communicated. And okay, so we're gonna jump right in, and then we'll have a little bit more time for questions. I'm happy also to answer any other questions that arise further as we go into the next exercise. So the team share with you the framework, and the team also share with you the checklist. So some of you might already have it super clear. Some of you might be just diving into the framework. But my idea would be that we take the next, the next 10 minutes for you to use that framework and use that checklist in order to write your story. I also included a little template on how can you incorporate it. It doesn't, as I mentioned to you, there is no one size fits all. Like, you can really, you know, adapt your story within the context that you are using and the work that you do. But the summary could go, we believe why, we do it by, and therefore we created this. And as I mentioned before, you start with that deeper emotional motivation, and then you follow the thread to the more rational offering. So I'm going to give you the next 10 minutes. It's 9:58, so maybe we think of coming back at 10:10, and then we can share a few stories and have a little bit of time for Q&A if anybody else has any further questions. We'll be right back. Okay, so thank you to everyone that took the spotlight, and for those who didn't, hopefully this was useful and you can go back home and refine it a little bit. As I mentioned, if you want to connect with me one-on-one and you want to work a little bit further on this, I'm happy to support. You can find me on LinkedIn as Alejandra Silva, or on Instagram as It's Alejandra Silva. So happy to help you further. And at Venture Café, if you ever want to join any of our activations, I'm always there. So what happens next? Where are we going from here? And I'm about to give this and hand this over to Luciana, but the next step is bringing it to life. So how do we deploy this? How do we use this foundational element and we go more further into your visual assets? How do you plug this communicational strategy into social media? Andrea shared with us how her message is built on their website. So what we want to dive in a little deeper next time, it's how this foundational story also transpires in a very important way into your visual assets, into social media templates, into your creative content. And so on our following workshop, which we'll share a little bit more about the dates, we're going to go a little bit further into these more technical elements, and we'll send you a little homework into assets we would like for you to bring into the actual workshop. And we are going to leave with templates. We're going to leave even with a piece of social media content that you'll be able to share. And it's all going to be grounded in your story. So I encourage you that if this was a little bit of a short time, which I know it was, go home and really digest that story a little bit deeper and bring it back with you, because we'll take it from there. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. I hope you enjoy this, and I look forward to stay connected. Thank you.
Thank you, Ale. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your knowledge on this area. As I was sharing with you all at the beginning, these are building pieces, right? Like we're building into another. And also, as Ale said, this is the first workshop of the second one. So we hope for you to see you on the next one. So with that said, that's a wrap. So again, thank you so much for being here. We're gonna be sharing a few next steps. And as always, we would love to hear from you. How was the workshop? Something that you learned today, and then also what we can bring for on the next session. So Charlotte is gonna drop in the chat the link to our feedback session. So we're gonna play one song to allow you all to fill out the form. Already, everyone. So if you haven't finished your survey, please, we ask you kindly to fill it out at the end of the session. Again, your feedback is super important for us, and it helps us to improve and to also aggregate all of the insights from you all into the following sessions. So as Ale was saying, we're excited to welcome her again during our next Open for Business workshop, which is related to deploying your brand on March 21st, 2024 at 9 a.m. So as always, all of the virtual workshops are happening the third Thursday of the month from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. So we're going to be welcoming again Ale to share more knowledge about how to deploy your brand, how to leverage this story and using different channels for you to portray your message and portray the work that you're doing with your organization. We also wanted to share a few announcements and opportunities for you all that you could leverage, both as part of the Miami Open for Business program, but also outside that are available in the community. The first one is that the collective real estate ownership loan, it's open. We have 2 deadlines coming up. The first one, it's on February 15th, and the last one to apply for CREO, it's going to be on April 15th. So if you would like for us to review this option for you and your organization, we can book some office hours and we can walk you through the loan offering. This is a co-ownership partnership opportunity for you to acquire real estate with another organization. The second one is that the Business Network International approach us and offer to the nonprofit ecosystem and the nonprofit environment in Miami, and offering 1-year complimentary membership seat to a BNI section. So these are spaces to network, to share about your organization, and also collaborate with other small businesses within different sectors in Miami. So we're gonna also drop the chat if you would like to take advantage of this membership, this free membership for you to network with other organizations and businesses within the Miami area. The third one is that we would love to invite you to attend Days of Connection. This is also going to be another opportunity for you to connect with different organizations and leaders across sectors, to cross lines of difference and to fight hate discrimination. This is one of our community engagement programs at Radical Partners. And we're going to be doing this for the 8th year. So we would love to welcome you all for our upcoming meeting of the minds, which is going to be our massive brainstorming session happening next week, Friday, from 11:30 to 1:30 p.m. at Mindspace in Wynwood. This one is going to be an in-person event. Charlotte is also going to drop in the chat the link to join the 10 Days of Connection. And in the case you cannot make it to the meeting of the minds, you can still join the program from May 1st to May 10th. And also if you would like to collaborate with us on the 10 Days of Connection. The last one is to remind you that you have office hours available as well, and they're booked as needed in first come, first serve. So with that said, is that you can take any of the knowledge that you have taken from these sessions and also collaborate and work with any of the coaches that are available on the website. So we have around 2 or 3 coaches that are focused on communication. So if you have a few other questions that you would like to dive in deep, make sure you leverage all of these resources available for you as well at no cost. And when it comes to final next steps and reminders, if you got here to this session because you saw the link at the Miami Foundation newsletter, please make sure you sign up through our intake form so that you can receive the email from us regarding all of the next opportunities, next workshops, and also access to your office hours. The second one is that leverage the access to your office hours that are available for you This one is a password protected page, so you will have the password on your inbox. It's OFB Coach. The third one is to make sure you work on your story plan so that you can be prepared for our following session on March 21st. And then the last one is that we hope to see you again on March 21st, 2024, for our communications to deploying your brand. So with that said, as